All right, so I kind of messed up this week and I accidentally deleted all the videos I had made in the work days that I did to make a video for this week. So I'm just going to give you the update of what I did all at once. So I put in the lower control arms. That's pretty much how I started it off. Put all the bushings in, new ball joints. You do have to order, because I used the donor lower control arm. I did have to order my own lower ball joint, Mevotech. The box is not here right now, but anyway, it's a Mevotech lower ball joint for a 96 Mustang GT, and then polyurethane mounts. You do have to, let's see if you can see in there the detail here. You do have to cut. So these bolts are replacement bolts from late model restoration supply, and you do have to cut the bolt down. How I did that is I measured with the bolt in as far as it would go. I measured how much of a distance there was between the bottom of the flange and then where it would contact the tab there on the chassis. And then I measured that with veneer calipers. If you don't know what veneer calipers are, I'll show you, because I realized that some of you, so these are veneer calipers. This is a basic cobalt one that you can get. This is digital. You can also get them in dial. I think I have a dial one here, like this. This is a cheap plastic one. This is also a veneer caliper with a dial. Obviously much easier if you're not used to it to read the digital one. So if you're looking into this as a learning thing, learn how to read the dial. If not, if you don't care, read the digital one. Either way, as long as you get the gap right, who cares? Then I marked it on marked it around the thread where I was gonna cut with a marker, and then I cut it with a Dremel, rotary tool, Dremel-like, and then these Dremel Easy Lock cutting thin cut blades, and they kind of go into, I'll show you here, this little piece here, and they lock into that, and the rotary tool turns in. You can get a nice precise cut out of it. Put a nut on, put a just regular nut past where you're gonna cut. That way when you cut it and then you clean up the thread and you back that nut off, the threads will kind of like, you making sure that the nut will still go on. Don't use a nylon knocking nut for that, because you will destroy the nylon. Don't use a locking nut either, because it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, so you do have to do that or it's going to touch there. I also had to, when you put the bolts and everything in, check to see the gaps. So you can see here, I got a little washer in there. The Ace Hardware's near where I'm at, they sell like different size washers. So I bought a few of these 5/8 washers, because what you want to do is you want to keep these tabs as parallel as possible. So when you put the torque on, it clamps the spacer that's in there and doesn't make the tab bend inward, squeezing the bushing and putting tension on it. So you got to make sure that you keep those parallel. I only had to space this one. One thing that's very frustrating with the Factory 5 is that they don't give you washers. I read on somewhere online that they did give you washers, but I can't find any in the kit. So you have to buy your own washers. So you should at least have a washer on the nut side of a fastener like that. So when you torque it down, the nut turns on the washer and doesn't turn into what's underneath it. That's in, and then I come from an aviation background, so my rules about fasteners are from aviation. So in aviation, that's how you do it. For the most part, you are going to have flanges that don't require that, but for the most part you do. You also want to torque the nut if you can possibly do that. There's like in this situation here, it's very difficult to get to that nut. So obviously, it's not as easy to do that, but you want to torque the nut. You also want 1 to 3 threads showing. None of this flush. You want 1 to 3 threads popped up above the nut. And you can see like here, that's one thread there. So 1 to 3 threads. That's how you do it. In aviation, anyway. I noticed automotive is a little bit lax in that, but that's how you do it. So for the lower control arm also, I could probably, in putting in the coilover here, I could probably have moved this mount, because you do have to drill a hole for that mount, and then they recommend you notch this out. So I did that before I powder coated it. I could have probably moved this down a little bit, and making it so that there was more space between the mount, top mount and the bottom mount, and making it easier to put the coilover in. It was a bit of a struggle to get it in there, but I got it in there. So that's that area there. I still need to torque my ball joints, and that will finish up this. I've torqued all this stuff. This I'm waiting to adjust until I get my other upper A-arm. I'm going to do that all at one time. I'm still waiting on my replacement A-arm, which should be here this next week. So yeah, that's it for that. And then that pretty much completes this. Still got to do hubs and brakes. And then this will be, front suspension will be done except for the steering rack and steering linkages. I've also moved on to the back to start doing some stuff back there, which I'll show you here in a second. Yeah, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the front. Oh, it is a little confusing in the manual. This is something to take note of. When they show you, see, they show you this picture of the relationship of the control, or the coilover, and in the picture this is actually upside down. If you look here and you look at and you read through the what it just says is it says here there's a place in here where it says how it goes. And yeah, it's upside down because it goes the other direction. It goes like this. Oh yeah, it says body of the shock. Yeah, here. If using, so then mount with the body of the shock down in the top hole location. So where the hell did it go? Past the shock assembly. Oh yeah, here we go. Right here. This is how you know it's upside down. Past the shock assembly with the body of the shock up. This silver stem is the bottom of the shock shaft. There. This is the body of the shock up. Okay? So in this picture here, they have it upside down. So when I built the coilovers, I didn't read this. I just looked at the picture and I built my coilovers. You can see here, Factory 5 Racing. I built the spring the other way around. So I did have to take the snap ring back out, loosen it back up, flip it around. It was a pain, but whatever. Just so you know, if you're using these red shocks, I don't know how the silver ones are. Maybe the silver ones are different, but the red ones, that's how they go. So there's no problem. Yeah. So yeah. See, in this picture, they don't show you. So yeah, whatever. There's a couple errors in here, and so. It seems as this manual's old, and they haven't updated it. Don't know why, but whatever. Okay, so moving on. I cleaned, prepped, stripped down, clean, prepped, painted the, actually, I'll show you this. The rear end. And let's see if I can get to it. Okay, so I'll show you what I cleaned with. This is what I cleaned with as a degreaser. Super clean. I just sprayed it down. Got all the loose stuff off with a plastic brush, a plastic wire brush. Got it all, you know, and I put down like a barrier paper on the ground and just soaked it, knocked off all the, you know, loose dirt and crap and stuff, and just kept soaking it, and then just, you know, a couple rinses and stuff like that. Then I took a brush like this, and which I got at AH Hardware, and I just scraped, you know, everything. Just kept scraping. Acetone. I used then some lint-free rags at the end, like these. This got at Lowe's. Just got all that stuff off. Scotch-Brite. Just trying to scrape it all down. And then I used some wax and tar remover, which you can get at like United O'Reilly's in the paint auto body section. And then what I did, and I'll show you here, I used, so then some of it had like light surface rust and some of it didn't. So I wanted to take care of the rust. Now, my opinion, Steel It is one of the best metal finishing paints, which is this here. This is Steel It Black. I put Steel It on the spindles, the Steel It Gray. But before I put the Steel It on, I did a couple light coats of the Acewood Rust Encapsulator to kind of seal, I don't know, I guess seal the rust. And this is what the rear end looks like now. So I don't think I had, my video of what it looked like before. If you go on my website, you can see pictures of it before, but that's what it looks like now. And it's, so I took off what I could, and then just painted everything black. So this is a pretty good finish. I have new bushing cases to put in here. I'm gonna do those, and then polyurethane bushings, and then I have new control arms. And then I will be installing the rear end. I've already kind of looked over what I have to do that. This is the spring perch that they have you bolt in. And when they have you bolted in, it kind of bolts in here. And then the flat part, which is this here, bolts to the bottom of this here. And you have to drill holes so that the bolts can pass through. And then the spring, from what it seems like, it threads onto this part here. So you spin the spring up into this. That's what it seemed like. And then it rests on that. And then you can adjust the ride height by turning the coil. And if you've done the prep for that, you have to cut an inch off the coil. So don't forget to do that. Yeah, and then I'll put the rear end in. It looks like they want you to put the brakes on first, so I'll do that as well. And then it will be rollable. It'll be supported, and the suspension will be installed. It'll be rollable, and then it looks like they have you start preparing for engine installation, I think. So that'll be that part. But yeah, it's coming along. It's getting all installed. Yeah, so that's what I did this week on it. I was a little curious to see how long Factory 5 tells you. Factory 5 states on their website it takes 300 hours to build a car. And I'm imagining that's without donor disassembly. So 300 hours, I think, divided by 8 is 35, something like that. So a month and 5 days, something like that, yeah, around there. We'll see. I think so far with donor disassembly prep and stuff like that, I'm at like 18 days. So, just so you know how long the whole thing is taking. Yeah, so, yeah, that's it for this week. Next week, hopefully I'll have a better update on the rolling chassis part of it, so stay tuned.